Hey everyone, when you're developing software, you ever feel the vibe? Well, vibe coding's real. You're watching Techstrong, gang. Yeah, it sounds like something out of a Beach Boys song, but I don't know. Happy Tuesday to you. Feeling the vibes, it's got that California dream in. I don't know. Help me, Rhonda. But welcome to Techstrong, gang, here on this Tuesday. That whole vibe thing's got me going. I hope it's got you going. I hope you had a great Monday. Let me introduce you to our gang members today, and we're going to jump right into this exciting lineup we have for us today. First of all, joining us out in Colorado, he's the future VP analyst for DevOps, app dev, all that good stuff. And our friend, the guitar man, Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitch, how are you?
Sending you good vibrations.
Sending it good. I'm digging it. I saw this biopic on Brian Wilson. What a sad story that is. Jumping over from, California dreaming to the New York state of mind. Yeah, you see what I did there? Mm-hmm. He's our chief content officer, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you guys.
Excellent. Good to have you on. So you feeling the vibe today?
I'm always feeling the vibe, for better or worse. But
all right. And then joining me here in our Techstrong studios in Boca Raton, Florida, she's our Echo Insights editor, analyst, as well as author of a new report.
That's right.
That we covered. If you haven't checked that out on the gang, please do. It's our own Bonnie Schneider. Hey, Bonnie, how are you?
I'm great. Good to be here, Alan.
Good. All righty. So, Mike, I kicked it off. The new cool thing is vibe coding. What's old is new again. Should I get out like my flower power, elephant bells, and?
I'm not quite clear on it myself, and I was going to ask Mitch, but vibe coding seems to refer to this new, essentially, end users are building their own software again, and maybe we just think there's going to be more of them doing it, and there's a lot more reports of that. People are writing tens of thousands of lines of code. And I don't know, to your point, maybe I do throw on some Beach Boy tunes, throw back a couple of gummies, and away we go.
Well, you're talking to the right guy in Colorado there. Is that what it's about, Mitch?
Let me know what you need. Well, so actually, vibe coding, the term is not very old. It's only about a month and a half or so old. It was termed by Andre Karpathy, who was one of the co-founders of OpenAI. He was head of AI at Tesla. This guy's no slouch. But essentially, it is for developers. It's not just end users. What it is I think of it as leaning in to AI. Just do it all with AI and starting with natural language interface. So describe what you're trying to build through natural language, iterate on it through natural language. You're not sitting here in an IDE fixing all of this code. You're using AI as much as you possibly can to create and then set up and deploy code. And so what I like about it is, there's tiptoeing into AI use and development, cautiously, kind of learning it. This is what can you do if you really kind of hand the reins to AI as much as possible. And it's sparked a debate. Not everybody's on the same page about this is a good idea yet or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's more than a few developers out there who's saying this is going to have a bad outcome because the software will be buggy, it won't scale, there'll be security issues. And yet, Alan, we've talked about this. I mean, ultimately, we think there's going to be millions of people building software. So is this the start of it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little truth speak to me. And of course, we live in a world or a country where truth speak has become the de facto standard. So is vibe coding really just AI generated code for the most part, and it just makes it sound better? We wrapped it in a California dreaming wrapper. I mean, that makes us,
It makes it sound more fun, at least,
Yeah. Feeling
Well,
the
at least
vibe.
it's just a point of reference of, all right, so go get an account on Cursor and download Claude 3.7 Sonnet and start describing what you want it to build and let it go. I think that one of the possible downsides is this takes off, and to your point, a whole bunch of crap gets generated, gets created. It could put a wet blanket on AI generated code, AI use in development. I don't know that that's going to happen, but if it took off and everybody and their brother is doing this and just deploying whatever you got back from Sonnet or whatever LLM you're using, that's not a good idea either.
Yeah, I will tell you what I like about it. So the whole software development process has always been a little cumbersome, to say the least, where, end users put down something that feels like a requirements document, and then that gets handed off to a bunch of developers, and it's a left brain versus right brain conversation. And there's successive iterations until we get to something that feels like compromise rather than what we actually want it. So is there a way to think about vibe coding as end users describing something to the point where they understand the process and the thing that they want it to do, and then maybe the code is open enough for the developers to go in and refine it to get it to the point where we need it to scale and do all those important things that are called professional software development?
I think that's a great point, because that's speeding the efficiency of it, making it productivity process go faster. And I'd be curious, and with the vibe coding, if depending on how it's been programmed or who's behind it, if it innately is seeking to keep the code more clean and more green. I don't know. I haven't really looked into that, but I think it's an interesting factor to see if there's an innate process that might actually do that, where a software developer might miss the mark on that.
I think as more LLMs are focused on better security, green code, things like that, those kind of things will happen. I think now we're at this. Can you do vibe coding and really kind of do more complicated software architectures or design patterns, or is it just going to generate what it's going to generate, and you kind of live with that? I think the other benefit, though, is you can also take code that's been generated, or even not existing code bases, and say, "Tell me what this stuff does." Right? I don't want to try to learn this by walking through the code and in my head all the logic paths and understand what it does. Just give me a really good description. Now, here's what I want you to do with it. Take that and do the following, because you may not have touched that code in months or years, even, or it's someone else's code.
I'll tell you the other thing I like about it. And let's be truthful. A lot of corporations, come up with great quote unquote ideas for developers to go implement that are just boring the developers to tears, because it's just the same old frameworks and crap over and over again. And maybe, would be more exciting for everybody concerned if developers did stuff that was more interesting and challenging, and the machines took care of all this rote stuff that end users need and is kind of crucial, but it's not all that complicated at the end of the day. We just need something to do something.
Well, it's rather than adding one more thing to the developer's plate, we all know about shift left and other things like that. It is a different way of doing things that you can see if this is going to be more productive. You spend more time trying to wrangle whatever LLM to give you the code that you want, that's working properly, is safe, secure, as green as you want it, or is it actually making you more efficient? And how far can you take that with vibe coding? And imagine it'll advance, week to week of more things you could do with it. But it's still experimental. That said, I think that's what folks like Meta and Oracle and Salesforce are saying about when they're talking about reducing developers in kind of that mid tier. They're talking about moving to something like vibe coding.
Well, I got to say, I just give him an A+ for choosing the name, man. What a great name for this.
The guy's got style. Andre
Yeah,
had to.
good for him.
Style points for the name.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I would add one more thing though, and you and I have gone around on this before, Mitch, but it's like, end users have all had the same experience. They're like, oh man, I got this software idea. I need a piece of software that does this. And then they go marching down to the dev IT team, who looks at them, nods their head and says, yeah, that would be awesome. And, here's your ticket, and you are now project number 347 on a list of 512, and we might get to that in 3 years. So, we might actually get to the point where we do have more software developed faster because end users won't have to wait in line.
Can you imagine you as the end user requesting this using a natural language prompt, a Gen AI prompt to say, now, does this application do this? Because that's what I asked Mitch to make sure it does this, this, and this. Does this app do this? You actually query the code base and it'll tell you without dragging you through code or mystical development terms that end users may not want to know about.
Right. And there's going to be an AI agent that's going to review the vibe coding. It'll be called Buzzkiller. And, and it will, look at everything and say, is this legitimate or not?
Crazy world. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. I didn't see it at the Oscars Sunday night, but is there a new movie, new video, Attack of the Killer Robot? Must be one of those Chinese films. You're watching Techstrong, gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
All right, folks, we're back with Mitch Ashley, Alan Schimmel, and Bonnie Schneider, and we're talking now about robots. And we had a chat about this last week in an episode where we were discussing Meta and their ambitions in building AI for consumers. And I don't know, truth may be stranger than fiction, but apparently there's this Chinese robot that was in a crowd that went a little bit crazy and had to be restrained by security people. Nobody, I don't think, was killed, but it kind of got everybody wagging their tongues for sure about, well, is this going to be like Isaac Asimov, iRobot? Do we need to kind of have guardrails, or are we just going to turn these things loose? I don't know. Alan, what was your take on this?
So, first of all, in truth speak language, we don't call them robots anymore.
What do we call them?
Physical AI.
Oh, okay.
It's physical AI. But that being said, look, I think, it's more like RoboCop than iRobot, right? Maybe it's an early RoboCop. I heard the robot was named Tiananmen. So who knows? I mean, certainly, look, here's my prediction, and you could say Shimmy said it first. The first active functioning robots we're going to make are going to be soldiers. And it'll probably be the US and China that do it because that's a great use for them. And if you're going to have soldier robots or, physical AI soldiers, I think killing and hurting people is going to be part of their programming. And I think we're a ways off from being as civilized or as enlightened as the third laws, the three laws of robotics and the zeroth law, right, Mitch?
Yes,
that we
there's
saw
5 a lot now. Yeah, but yes,
that you see in the Asimov thing. We've got some barbarian years to go through first.
I'll posit a scenario that looks like this. Somebody cuts and pastes code from the soldier robot into a senior healthcare robot, and suddenly some old guy is screaming at a bunch of teenagers to get the hell off my lawn, and then the robot goes and attacks them. So,
Wow, that sounds like a Clint Eastwood movie.
stick the lawnmower on him, the robot lawnmower. I have to think of, Star Wars and the Clone Wars. Pretty soon we'll have clones. In Star Wars parlance, they're droids, right? They're not robots, but same idea. So we'll see. I mean, I think you're right, Alan. We'll definitely see military applications of this, and whether it's AI aided, physically aided soldiers or bot soldiers themselves, robots. I don't know about physical AI. That sounds like it'd be a lot of things. I'm not sure what that doesn't jive me like vibe coding. But anyway, we'll come up with a better term.
Okay. Whatever droids. What about droids?
Aren't the droids you're looking for?
Yeah, could be.
Well, let's take this to the natural level of the United States thinking and the Bill of Rights. But let me get this straight. If everybody else, especially those criminals, has robots, I'm going to need my own robots to fight the criminal robots, and it's all going to be crazy.
The Bill of Rights have been suspended, and it's an emergency thing. Don't worry about it.
Is a robot part of or will be covered under the right to bear arms? I don't know.
Right to bear robots.
If the robot's a weapon under the Second Amendment.
Versus Rosie the robot. House cleaning.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I liked Rosie.
Yeah.
We spoke about Rosie last week, right?
Judson.
Yeah.
So will Smith and Wesson make robots? Is that what we're saying?
Well, but think about it. I mean, if you're making warrior robots, warrior droids, right? Their aim is probably going to be really, really good. Their weapons that are built into it are going to be really, really well. I don't know if you do them, Mitchell, without AI, because what good are they without the AI, quite frankly? And and not just soldiers like an army, Clone Wars. Seriously, RoboCop robots walking the beat.
Well, we know that at least from Star Wars that the droids will be much more accurate than the stormtroopers, the clones.
Yeah. Well, the stormtroopers always were a little buffoonish, weren't they? Yeah.
On the plus side, when the planet is drowning in water because nobody paid attention to Bonnie, we can send robots in to save people.
Why? You think robots can swim?
They're waterproof.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Will they need to swim or will they just walk underwater? I don't know.
Walk on the bottom. Yeah.
That could be too. Look, it's certainly it makes for an interesting world, right? I think the other thing we're going to have to get our heads wrapped around is, do we want robots that are sort of humanoid in shape and look, right? Because it'll be more familiar to us. Is it more creepy? I don't know, man. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. But all kidding aside, in the meantime, you did have this robot attacking a crowd at a festival in China. And I'm sure it scared the heck out of people.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, though, won't I want to customize my robot, kind of like a hot rod? I'll just make my own little robot, and whether it's humanoid or not will be up to me.
Well, it could many forms too. What about an autonomous car going crazy? Mowing people down. That's bound to happen too.
Wasn't that a Christine the movie or something? John Carpenter movie? Yeah.
That
was scary.
I think it was a Stephen King novel, I believe.
It was originally a Stephen King novel, yeah. I mean, look, this is the world. I mean, when we were kidding around with Asimov's law of robotics, you probably do need some sort of fail-proof programming in there.
And then who's responsible if the robot attacks somebody or goes crazy? Is it the owner of the robot, the person who programmed the robot?
Everyone with a deep pocket.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's getting sued?
Who's got the deep pocket? But, so let me tie this up to vibe coding. If you've got a robot, if I own a robot, and then I want to program it to either be more vicious, less vicious, lethal, non-lethal, and I could do that easily with vibe coding. How the heck do you control this? Maybe we need to put something in that you can't customize your robot, and then
or cut off switch.
I'm looking forward to that first television ad where it's going to be, Morgan and Morgan, if you've been attacked by an AI robot,
that's
your
true.
robot
That's
is
a
hot.
feature.
Those ads. Your robot is hot.
Yeah.
They have in Florida.
Yes. Your AC, you better keep your AC on. Um, all right. Okay, I see where we're going with this today. Let's take a break here. We may replace the whole gang with robots and
No.
see how that goes. You're watching Techstrong Gang. We'll be right back.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Welcome back to the Techstrong Gang. I'm joined by Alan Schimmel. We have Mike Vizard and, of course, Mitch Ashley. And we're glad to be here because today we're talking about, in this section, about sustainability. And I had a really interesting interview recently with Aleka Reddy. She's the VP of product for a company called Aptera, which is all about carbon tracking, how to reduce emissions. And I've previously talked to their CEO about supply chain emissions, which is a big factor in evolving regulations, including what's coming out of the EU for Scope 3. That means your entire supply chain, very tough to track and measure when you're talking about outside vendors and every step of the process that you have. But this topic of conversation with Aleka was focused on the role of the Chief Sustainability Officer, how that's changed, where that fits into an organization. And I think most interestingly for the audience of the Techstrong Gang is, where's the role of IT in all this? And Aleka points out that it's a critical role and very crucial to work hand in hand with the CSO in an organization.
So as the VP of product at Aptera, I lead the development of our carbon accounting platform. Our mission is to help businesses track, measure, and reduce their carbon emissions, providing them with the insights they need to make data-driven decisions. I think what excites me most about my role in Aptera is the work that we do with companies across industries and maturity levels to really help them achieve their goals through our platform and services. Sustainability can sit within very different business functions, from finance to operations to people. So there's little similarity and standardization across the board, which oftentimes leaves these teams feeling left in the dark.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, how do you think this lack of notoriety and collaboration can detrimentally impact an organization?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, sustainability teams are impactful when they're able to connect with the rest of the business and influence business behaviors that alleviate the known risks of climate change. Without this critical collaboration, sustainability teams really lose their ability to drive meaningful change. And at the end of the day, an opportunity for innovation is lost. Solving climate risk business problems requires a myriad of different perspectives, and collaboration is really at the heart of that.
Well, how do you recommend chief sustainability officers change that? How can they get more their messaging out to the different business units and really convey to leadership and the entire company that what they do is important?
Yeah, so much of the spirit of collaboration really starts at the highest levels of leadership at a company. An important part of the CSO role is to create a vision for sustainability that's not just a corporate responsibility, but a central business priority. And then get the buy-in and support of other business stakeholders through constant education and touch points. On the more tactical side, we've seen clients with successful climate programs integrate sustainability metrics into the overall business strategy and performance reviews of peers, not just the CSR report and sustainability report. So ultimately, sharing the accountability of sustainability helps drive these results. I don't think I can emphasize enough how important and critical IT solutions will be to decarbonization efforts over the next decade.
So Aptera is one of the companies that was featured in the EcoTech report because of the carbon tracking factor. But I think it's interesting to have this conversation about the role of the chief sustainability officer and not being, as I mentioned in the video, in a silo where it's just one department. I think the importance of having that interface with IT teams is crucial, as I mentioned. And since we're all, I should say, except myself, IT practitioners, I'm curious what you all think about that.
I think it's going to take access to a lot of data that are going to be, within the ERP system, CRMs, things like that. But also, if you really follow the supply chain, it's back to what materials are used in manufacturing of products, or we generate or use carbon as part of building something or operating something. So we think about AI and all the data centers that we're running for AI. What is the carbon footprint of that adding, or is it substituting other things? So I don't know that any sustainability officer could truly operate on their own. They're going to want to talk to all parts of the organization.
Sure.
That's a good point.
I think there's two aspects to AI, to IT's role in sustainability. One is kind of physician heal thyself, right? What could IT do around IT usage to be more sustainable? So to be more efficient in computing resources, to use better materials in your computers, to, just make your IT more sustainable. And that there's a limited impact, but an impact. The bigger impact is how can we use IT to be more sustainable through all of our business processes, such as manufacturing, building, construction. So much of the carbon that goes in during the construction process, like right in the beginning. And so, can IT be more influential in making sustainability decisions throughout the broader supply chain and business of an organization? That's number one. Number two, though, I was reading an article yesterday that I think a new executive order came down that we're going to do more, we're going to increase and accelerate timber harvesting, which means basically deforestation, right? I wake up every day and Biff's in charge. But, if that's the kind of messages we're getting, how many chief sustainability officers are we going to have? Is that like a dying breed? Are organizations going to care enough, right, to be serious about sustainability?
Well, right now it's a rising breed. From the research that I've done, is that it's increasing, and it's in most forward larger companies. There is a chief sustainability officer, but you're right. We're early on in this administration. We'll have to see what the effects are of it.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of, does it politicized or not, right? If it goes the way of DEI, making it a political issue, then there's a real danger of that becoming a rare breed. Until then, I think, to your point, Bonnie, and your research, right, we'll continue to see this building up, because it is a global phenomenon, not just in the U.S. what our needs are. So a lot of the regulations coming out of you, of course.
And it is the personal beliefs of at least the IT practitioners that I've interviewed and met, that they feel strongly about it themselves. So I think that's always going to be a motivating factor too.
Here's what I'd like to see. It's no different than when Bloomberg put together some law that required restaurants to show you how many calories were in the meal you're eating, right? We should be able to just see, regardless of what you're going to do about it, is up to you, but how many carbons were used to create this thing that we're about to buy, consume, use, or whatever. And that should just be data that we're sharing with folks so everybody kind of knows. And then they have a relative metric for how much carbon is being generated by, for example, I don't know, that a query you just sent off to an AI agent. And you should be able to see that and then decide for yourself what makes sense for you. But I think the more that we make people conscious of the fact that we're counting these things, we'll get better behavior.
I think you're right. You see that sometimes when you're purchasing something on Amazon, it'll say, low carbon, recognized for that. So it's starting to pop up. And given the choices, especially if the prices are the same, I'm not sure of the research, but I think a lot of people would be inclined to make that decision.
Yeah. I
wouldn't
think
trust.
more in the rest of the world than here, unfortunately.
I mean, I wouldn't trust the provider of the product or service to count the carbons. I'd want somebody else to validate that. But I think that's ultimately where we need to go. And maybe states will do it. I mean, you could see the state of California driving something like this, and then everybody else will just fall in line.
That works. That would work. Great stuff, though, on this video. You're reporting it.
Yes, ecotechreport.com, and some of the companies that are featured in it are putting out, releases that they're honored to be mentioned in the report, which is so great. And one of the companies that actually did that was called Human IT, and they specialize in that ability to recycle, refurbish hardware, and then give it to people in need. So it's full cycle for this report of the product and sustainability, and look forward to the feedback that we continue to receive on it.
Very cool. All right. Great work on that, Bonnie. Well, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this Tuesday Techstrong Gang. We got you in and out of here in 45 minutes today, which is a beautiful thing. We've got, as usual, a full Techstrong TV lineup following, so stay tuned for that. And we'll be back tomorrow with more Techstrong Gang. Until then, on behalf of Mike Vizard, Mitch Ashley, Bonnie Schneider, and myself, have a great day. We're out of here.